All right, so let's look at how I block things out using AutoCAD. Specifically, the types of tools I use to block out, the way I think about it, and there's a couple of, I wouldn't say advanced features, but more advanced ways of thinking about how to use basic features that I use to really make things easy and allow me to block things out quickly, and more importantly, make changes quickly. So I have a PDF of a sketch of a house, and I put in on def points just as a placeholders. I normally have the site plan laid out for me to work off of. Not really important in this. I'm just kind of showing the process, but I do have the exterior of the property line, and then I did offset just to give me a quick setback for the house to work off of, and that's what these two guys are, and this is what I'm going to be using to start with. And the only other thing I have is the center line down the house. This really sets things up because everything's going to kind of be based off of this center line view. You can see this is going to be an outdoor atrium here with a covered lanai and then overlooking the pool into the water. Really cool shot. Though I just noticing and kind of looking at it, it's going to be slightly of an asymmetrical house, even though there is going to be symmetry within this backcourt. The front area is definitely going to be slightly asymmetrical, which is fine. We're just going to be aware of that as we're blocking out. So moving forward, one of the things I like to start with is the garage. Even though it is definitely not a primary spot, it is usually one of those spots that you're just simply are needed to have a particular space to make work. So we're going to be mindful of that, and I want to block out the garage, and then we can push and pull it from there, but I am going to start there. I currently have this line, which quote unquote is my setback, but we're going to use that as my exterior wall. Though, just as a rule of thumb, I generally like to start an inch or two off the setback to allow for if we want to add any stone or what have you, or just give me a little bit of freedom so I'm not so locked in, but we're going to maximize it out right here. So I have my green line. This is my wall exterior. I'm going to offset this 8 inches, and that's my 8-inch wall for my block wall working here in Florida. And then I'm going to offset this 360 inches for 30 feet. So that's what that is there. And offset another 8 inches. So you can see already it's not quite matching up to the sketch, which is fine. I mean, it's a sketch. This is why we're laying things out a little bit more directly. So then from there, I'm just going to do, the only other thing I want to do is I'm going to put in a horizontal line, and this is just going to kind of give me a basis for where to start pulling things from. So I wanted to start there. All right, so I'm going to offset this 8 inches, and if I turn my background image off, I can fillet these guys, and this is just going to be the beginning of my corner. I'm just going to trim it right here because really I'm going to need these walls over here. So then we'll fillet this and fillet this. Turn our background back on, and knowing I like working in 8-inch increments, we're going to copy this wall up. So it'd be 16 inches. I think that'll work out well. And so now we have that wall, and then we'll copy this up and create this wall, which this will do at, let's go 4 feet. I think that'll work. Looks like we're off just by a little bit in a consistent way, so that's fine. I'm just going to turn that off, and we can start connecting these points. And now we want to work on the verticals over here. So I want to add in a interior wall. So basically this interior wall right here. And we have two ways we can do it. On the inside, I definitely want to add a furring strip since this is a block wall on this wall here. But in the garage, I can. Sometimes we do finished garages, other times we don't. For this point, I'm just going to leave it as an unfinished garage. So this wall right here is not going to have a furring. So if I turn this wall off, so if we go turning this off, I can draw just a line up and give this as my wall interior low. Not low, sorry, just wall interior. So that is that there. One of the things I am looking at is the geometry of the house, meaning it looks like we're building this as one big cube, and looking at my second floor, this is also the case. You can see this is all aligning. So we want to really design that as one big cube, meaning we can allow like a beam to run across this whole thing as needed to really help that structurally. So we're going to think about all this sort of stuff already in our block out and in our design. We're already trying to think ahead in what is going to be needed. So I want to actually, we'll just copy both of these walls up. So this is going to be this wall here at some point, which is good. And the point being that I'm getting at is we do need to put in a stair. That's what we're dealing with right here and right here. These are our stairs, and these look to be about 4 feet. But I'm probably, even though I only need 4 inches for an interior wall, I might let this one be a full 8-inch interior wall and give a little bit of thickness to allow for us to make sure we can hide the beam fine, even though it'll probably be up in the ceiling and never see it. I'm just going to give ourselves some room to play around later if we need to. So I'm going to offset this 8 inches. So that's going to be that wall. And then we're going to offset 48 inches and 48 inches. And this is going to be our stair. I'm not going to draw the stair just yet. We'll probably circle back to that pretty soon. But right now I'm just leaving this as a general placeholder for my stair here. So with that, we now want to try and start identifying where we need the rest of our walls. Essentially, I want to look at this wall, and then we're going to build here, and then go this way. And then this is somewhat already defined by all the pieces we have. So we're going to just see how the pieces of the puzzles fit together. So if we dimension from here to let's say about here, that's about 14.6-ish. So I'm just going to offset this 14.6. And then let's say that's the outside of our block wall. Then go 2 inches that way, then offset 8 inches this way. Let's do that as a placeholder and see if we can start using this as our beginning of our block out. And again, if we need to push pull, that's the whole point of this. We're just laying something down for us to work through. So now I can fillet this and match properties, and we will continue to fill it and fill it, and then we'll fill it this way and this way. Now I'm gonna offset this 2 inches and offset this 4 inches, and then we can fill it. And now we have our unfinished garage walls and then our finished interior walls here. So that's good. We know this is going to be, actually, we'll wait till we get to the plan. So I think our plan is pushed in a little bit for some reason, and it's fine. We'll stick with that. So here, We know our bedroom is 14 by 8, so I'm going to offset 14 feet. So I actually have a command that I created called W4, which gives me a 4-inch wall. So I'm a W4 offset 14, and then immediately I can give my 4-inch wall. Then we'll do a quick measurement of this bathroom. It looks to be about 6 feet, so I'm going to copy, offset this wall 72 inches, and then offset 2 inches, and then offset 8 inches. And if I hide, and we can match properties, you can see that we are now defined the outer edge of our house on this side. So that's good. And then we'll turn this back on, and we know the bump out occurs right there. So the way I want to do this is offset 2 and then offset 8, because you'll see in just a second why. And now we'll do that. So it's just going to fill it and fill it. And then we're going to match properties and create the exterior bump, and then close out on the inside. So you see we had this line here, and we did a 2 and then 8, and then additionally a 4. And what this allows is my furring to occur here, and then we can line the inside of the wall up right there with the furring and give a really nice clean corner. So there we go. We're making some pretty quick progress. Let's keep it moving. We're going to try and get all the spaces planned, that maybe we'll fill in one of them and talk through that a little bit. This is an 18-foot bedroom, but there's a bar, so I just want to verify if it's 18 to the bar or 8 or 20. 19, it's basically a 20 foot. So we're going to offset, we'll go W4 to 40. Again, W4 is just a custom Lisp I created, just as an FYI. If we want to see videos on that, we can do that. But so just going to continue on and block all this out. I know that this is going to cut and cut. All right. Now looking at this door and this elevator, we're going to go through this real quick, then we're going to jump back into the bathroom. I see it's a double door. I generally like to not use anything less than a double 2.6, especially when we're dealing with 8 to 10 foot interior doors. 2 foot 4 or even 2 foot doors, they just look so skinny, even though it ends up being a 4 foot opening at 2 foot doors. It's just so skinny looking, it looks out of scale. So I'm going to bring in my double door block, which again, we have our program set up so that we can have a bunch of hotkeys or shortcut keys that allow us to bring in all kinds of components kind of already preset. So I'm going to turn this around. You see this is a double 2.0, but this is dynamic. So I'm going to switch this to a double 2.6, and I can even rotate my text. Then I'm going to move this by this jam right here, place it right against the wall. That's not where I want it, but that's where I want to start. So it's in reference. And then I'm going to move it over 6 inches as a general rule of thumb. I like blocking out at a minimum of 6 inches, maybe minimum of 4. 6 inches is really what I like. Just if you ever want to do 5.5 inches of trim around the door frame, you have room to do it. So from there, similarly, I'm going to draw just a reference line 6 inches out and then up. I know that this is now going to be 6 inches to give me room for framing there. So that's good. I'm going to offset this 4 inches, and this is going to give me my elevator wall, which is good. So already getting that out. And I believe this is a 6 foot by 6 foot square for the elevator, which is nice. Offset 72 inches. And I'm actually going to offset this 8 inches on the back side. And to turn all this off so you can see, I'm going to match this to my exterior wall, because really this is going to be a block wall for the structure of the elevator to create shear wall and all that sort of stuff. So I just want to start noting that in here now. I'm actually going to turn this off again. I'm going to, again, one of our pre-built commands, VA, brings in a vanity, and I'm going to place that there, and then I'm going to mirror it just because I want it running the other direction. And this is dynamic, and I'm going to choose, instead of a bathroom vanity with a sink in it, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to choose a single with uppers. And this just means it's a lower cabinet and an upper cabinet. I don't know what's really going to be in here, but I'm just going to show that graphically for now. And I could dynamically stretch this all the way over to wherever I want. This would give us a 6-inch jam if I did it there. Maybe I'm just going to go here just to give a little bit of breathing room. That'd probably be fine. If you really want to get fancy, you know, we can bring in an under-counter refrigerator and put this wherever we want. If we want to do something fun like that, even put a sink or whatever else in there. I'm going to go ahead and put my bed in here. This is going to be a queen bed. Ours comes preset with a 30-inch nightstand. In this room, it's going to be a little tight, so I'm just going to change these. I'm going to stretch it 6 inches and give them 24-inch nightstands, and then we can plop in the TV. And we're just going to lay this out, this one room at least, just so you can see how we would lay out a room, how easy our blocks are accessible, all that sort of stuff, which is really nice. I know we have a bathroom and a closet over here. I know already if this vanity is going to be here, again, I want a 6-inch jamb, so let's throw a door in here and see what happens. Maybe we'll have the door open the other way. Grab this and place this here. And yeah, we're clear. We can make it. It's a little tight, you know, maybe tighter than I generally would want, but it's fine. It works okay. And for symmetry purposes, I'm going to want this door to be mirrored on this side. This will be the door into the bathroom. And if we turn our bathroom on, let's take a look at what's going on. So we have a vanity, a toilet, and a shower. So let's see how this lays out. Get something nice. If I measure this vanity, it's sketched as 6'7". Maybe we'll do a 7-foot vanity. I think we can make that work. I think we got plenty of room. So, meaning I'm going to drop a vanity in. And again, we're going to mirror this. And then I'm just going to do a quick polyline projections of 7 feet and then over. And I just needed something to snap to. And I like doing polylines because it makes it really easy to select this and to erase it. So our dynamic component for this vanity, I can grab my vanity and stretch it. And the nice thing is the sink actually recenters as I do it. So I grab this, pull all the way up, 7-foot vanity, centered sink. That's great. Then we're going to throw in a water closet. So we get all kinds of custom blocks that we built, and you could even see, hopefully you can see it on the screen. We actually build in these little nodes. You can see there's a little tiny dot right there and a little tiny dot right there. These are actual nodes that we can snap to and grab. And I'm just going to dimension to it, and you can see that this is a 3-foot dimension, and that's how we like to keep 3 feet clear for our toilets. 2'8" at a bare minimum, but 3 feet works pretty well. So I can grab that node and place it right there, super easy, which is really nice. From there, I can grab, again, some pre-made showers. I'm going to grab another block, and so this is my shower, and this is just going to be a linear drain. And I can grab and snap again to that node and place it right there. You can see we're already perfect width-wise. Let's see how deep this is. 3'4". It's a good number. 3 foot at a bare minimum, but 3'4" is not bad. So now I can put my interior wall right there, draw both lines, copy it, and now we can trim out the rest of the interior wall. And I can trim here as well. So lastly, we can finish up the closet. We have WIC for walk-in closet, and this gives us our clothing racks. and I can switch this from a corner to a U and stretch this dynamically to the size of my closet, and that works out perfect. We have other things we would end up doing, like putting in all of the shower heads and doors. Right now I'm just worrying about space planning and kind of wanted to show the process of how we can bring in blocks and really quickly lay this whole thing out, which is just super nice. Just to stick with that, I'll just show one other thing. If we type in BE2, for example, this brings in a room name of bedroom 2. We can change this. We can double click on it. And maybe let's change this to VIP bedroom. Click OK. And then you see this already has a 12 by 12 dimension. It's just a dimension string that's set up dynamically, so we can grab these nodes, just click, pull, and snap to the wall. And now we have, you can see the bedroom is 14 by 20. So we can do this really easily. You know, I can name this as a bathroom, quickly grab the nodes and dimension this, and there we go. Same thing, closet, you know, CL2. And again, each one of these are renamable, so maybe we'll just do something like this to shorten it up and go VIP closet. And this one, I'm not going to name all these rooms in this video. Again, it's just going to be repetitive. I just want to show the process. But we'll call this one VIP bath, VIP closet, and actually I meant to do a little bit nicer that way. And then lastly, we'll just snap again back to the wall, and we have our quick dimensions for the room and accurate. So all really, really nice and quick and fast. So let's continue on blocking out the rest of this house, because there's a couple other really important things I want to get to on the more advanced levels, if you will, of how I think about some things. So turning on our plan again, I see we have a powder room and we have this club room. So let's go ahead and start getting this worked out. Again, I know this elevator was 6 foot, so I'm just going to offset this 6 feet, offset 4 inches. And we can, this wall is drawn a little too big, so we're just going to stretch this down. We can stretch this over. This powder, let's dimension this up. This looks like it's 6'8". I don't think that's a little big. So I'm just going to copy this up, to create a 6 foot powder room. So again, let's dimension this. Whoops, missed it by 4 inches. I don't know. There we go. So that'll be our 6 foot powder room. And I'm assuming this is a wine bar area. So this looks like a 2 foot counter with upper wine storage, with maybe a 12-inch counter over here and a really tight door. It makes me nervous. I'm not sure this is really viable. This is what happens in sketching sometimes. So I'm going to do an offset of 12 inches, and just to do, actually, maybe if we do another 6, that looks like an 18-inch. This looks like somewhere between a full 18 to 24-inch bar. I'm going to leave it as 18 just for the moment. Then I'm going to do 6. And to get into the AC, which I see back here, I really, at minimum, need a 2'8" door. So I'm going to offset 2'8". Then we'll offset 6. And let's see. If we offset 24, let's see where that puts us. That's full 24 there. That's seems like plenty of room. This seems pretty deep. I'm not quite sure what that is and what's going on there. I'll have to look into that. But either way, we will continue on. I am going to move all this over 6 inches to give a full 24-inch counter here with a 6-inch clearance. 6-inch clearance. In fact, I'll just draw the door in just so we can keep track of everything. 2'8", and we'll snap it to our wall so that we can get rid of this line and this line. This was another 24-inch here. Not quite sure what that is. It's kind of baffling me, but I will put another 24 inches there just as a placeholder, and then we can figure it out. I didn't do this sketch, so it's a little bit, I have to talk to the person who did sketch it. But that's what's kind of fun about blocking things out, is you get to really understand the project. So I'll turn this off, and I'm going to show, we're just going to fill it here to here. And this should now give us, let me just do this. This would be a counter, and I'm not going to draw the counters just yet. I'm just going to leave the markings for them. That would go there, and then we'll do this. And then again, these are just placeholders because we're space planning everything out right now. I'm just going to match my cabinet lines just so I know that those are cabinets. And then we'll turn our thing back on, and let's see, let's go offset 36, and that'll give us where this is, and our cabinet is about 6 foot, so it's offset 72. And it's a big powder room. And actually, we know that we want to pull from here. So if I turn all this off, we want all this aligned, so I'm going to get rid of this. So I just quickly copied those walls up from the bedroom. We're going to fill it all this. And right now, this is definitely an oversized powder, and which isn't a bad thing, but we can leave it like that for the moment, and know that we have some room to play with if we need to at some point later on. That's just, again, the block out process. It's always a push-pull of things in particular places. So let's turn this back on, and we see that the club room is 25 feet, and let's see, is the 25 feet is, that only dimensions 24, so it's definitely going to be from the wall, but ours is a little off, so I think we can actually make it work. So 25 feet all the way back there. So then we'll offset 2, and then 8, and we will match our exterior wall properties and connect everything. All right, and then turn back on, and we know that this wall, if you remember, we talked about this wall aligning with this garage wall. This wall is obviously, this wall is obviously going to be centered around this wall to create this wall. So let's mirror this and see what happens. I think that could be nice. In fact, I'm just going to offset 2 inches this way, so I only have to draw it once. I like doing things one time, and because now if I mirror this about here, that just gave us that wall. Really nice. So we can fill this all up, and we know that these walls are going to be even across the back, so we just created that that connection, and really getting a head start on things. We'll offset this 2 inches. This is for our furring off the block wall. Oops, let's Continue filleting that. And we can just pull this up here somewhere. So now we can quickly draw this atrium area. If we do a dimensions to down here, it looks like it's about 4-ish feet off. So that's good. I'm just going to pull a line over for reference, 48. And I know that this square, we usually do like to do at least 12-inch columns. So I'm going to offset 12 inches. And in fact, I'm going to go 12, comma 12, and create a block column for reference. And where we want to, this is getting back into maybe a design standpoint, but where this goes is going to be related to this corner, which is related to this corner, which will be related to this stair. So everything is going to kind of come off of this corner right here. So diving into here, I know this is going to be a corner. We want to look at the stair, so I'm going to turn our image off. It's going to come from here. That's going to be our wall. And in fact, I can even offset this 4 inches. And I know we're doing, even though this is a stair up and over, we are doing storage under this stair. So I'm going to go ahead and create that stair storage. And just to make sure we are clipping correctly. And so that's the beginning of our stair. Like I said, we'll come back in and draw this stair in just a minute. But we have a 12 by 12 column, and I'm going to place it right there because we know we want it aligned with this wall and aligned with the stair, and that's going to really set up alignments. Now, I'm currently drawing this in our green, which is our structure. I don't want a 12 by 12 structural column that then gets offsetted 2 inches to cloud it out with drywall or whatever, because then that becomes too big. So I'm going to offset this in 2 inches, which gives me an 8 by 8 interior column. So it could be an 8 by 8 concrete column, or it could even be a tube steel column, whatever. The point is we are going to account for the cladding. So I'm doing an 8 by 8 interior structural with a 2-inch furring out to give me a total of a 12-inch column. And that's what we're working on here. See that? So now that we have that, I can take this and mirror about here. And then I can take this and mirror about here, because that aligns all of that up. And we could turn our image back on. And with our image back on, it's not necessarily a column that's going here. It's more of a reference to what we're going to need. So we know that that's going to be, let me set my layer current to be my exterior wall. So I'm just going to draw this line up, this line over, and this line up. And I can get rid of these columns now for the time being. And we can offset 8 and do that, fill it. And then we will offset 2. And actually, it's probably going to be off just by a touch, because that's 10 inches. Yeah, we got to come back down 2 inches. We meant to do it on the inside so that the inside corners align, meaning from here to here align, if you see that. So that's the alignment I was really looking for. And we can take this column, put it there. That's weird. We'll just rematch that in a second. And we can project that all the way up. So that becomes that column. And this time I am going to do a 12 by 12 structural column because we're not really going to be cladding out around it. So that's fine. You know, maybe a little bit of a stucco layer or something of that nature. And then I can mirror that guy. And then we'll turn on our image again. And we see that it is a 16-foot lanai. That's how tall it is. So what that means is from here to 16 feet, that is where our column would be. So we'll do that. So that just simply means that this is where the edge of our wall is going to be. So we'll offset 8 and 2. I'm going to erase this column for the time being. Whoops. Put that back in. And go there. And we'll just fillet all this out. And now that we have that wall set, we can check this distance. 4 foot. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad. That works. You know, always like 5 foot clear, but it'll work just fine. We can always play around with how this really works. You know, maybe it's pulled back to this wall, or we do something. That's all part of the design. And I'm actually going to erase, and erase because we already have these walls drawn. And now if we mirror, you see everything slides in perfectly. Works well. We have 2 ways we can do these columns. You can either put the column against the wall like that. You could not have the column, and actually really there's a third way. This is generally what I do most of the time depending on the architecture. I just engage it halfway and do something like that. And then if we mirror this guy around here, that allows us to do that. Now the other thing we could do, if we want to look at it, which would be kind of fun, if you see, if I copy this down, because this is 8 inch plus 2 inch, that's 10 inches total, and this is 12 inch, technically this creates odd set of alignments of it either works in some place and not in others. So one of the fun things we can look at is, okay, do we want to make the column kind of proud on this corner, meaning, you know, we have that nice 2-inch reveal right here, so we can get almost like a pilaster type of idea, and maybe that would be good. So I'm going to actually grab these walls, stretch it, but I'm gonna remove the columns from this stretch and then stretch this down 2 inches, and now you can see if I trim based upon this corner, now we just have that outline of a column, and that could actually be kind of nice and make things look like they kind of all fit in. And I'm going to just draw this to give myself a reference point to mirror and get that. And now you can see in the corner we would do the same thing, where we're just getting a reference of a column existing within the whole thing. And then I have a header block that I can bring in. Again, it's all dynamic, and this will show, you know, that there is essentially a header above, giving me my dashed lines. It's all dynamic, so it makes it very easy and quick to draft. It's the whole point of the system. We'll do that. And really this one here, I'm just going to draw a line because we would probably embed this into the architecture. Again, make it just look nice on here while you're in the porch. Do that and that. And we'll get into the architectural design on the exterior in the 3D model, but this kind of just sets it up really nicely. I'm just going to quickly grab my center opening sliding glass door. If I throw this right here, and then we can adjust it just a touch to whatever we need. Let's see, this dimension is 14.4, so this will become a 14 foot by 8 foot, or probably become a 10 foot sliding glass door. And then again, center opening, so nice big windows when you come in to the atrium through the covered porch. Let's turn this back on. I think we're pretty close to having the ground floor drawn out, at least enough for right now, because I do want to get to the second floor. That's really where the really cool part starts happening, and it's important to make sure the second floor is overlapping the ground floor in a structural way. So before we get too far on the ground floor, we want to kind of make sure it's a symbiotic relationship between the two. So quickly, I'm just going to do a 2 foot offset for my cabinet, and then a 48 inch offset just to give a nice walking space inside this pantry. I'm going to offset 4 inches to give me that wall. There's a door going out to the garage, from here. It's not a bad idea. I'm just not going to worry about it right now. We'll just worry about this door. So what I'm going to do is, I know there's going to be a 2 foot cabinet up in the kitchen. This looks like it's going to some refrigerators that are kind of tucked away. Refrigerators, I like to leave, maybe 30 inches. So we just want to make sure that we have room to put refrigerators, put the door, and then put this. So I know all that's there and exists. So I'm going to turn off my background image, and I'm going to project, actually fill this to here. So again, we're doing an unfinished garage with a finished interior house. So I'm going to do offset 24 inches to start, which I'm just going to draw another quick line because I want to trim this guy like this, and do something like that. And this is going to be my cabinet. Again, I can do cabinets the same way we did here, but I'm just kind of, again, space holding for right now. Let's go offset 30 inches. This is my theoretical line for my refrigerators. Let's go offset 6 inches just to give some clearance. We'll throw a door in here. Whoops, I didn't mean to mirror it. I wanted a 2'8" door. Put that in there. Then I'm going to do just some lines for reference. I'm going to do 6 inches over and then 8 inches over. So just so you see what's going on, like I said, that's an 8-inch gap and that's a 6-inch gap. The 6 inches is clearance from the door, and then in the 8 inches is I just want to be able to have a nice thick wall that hides the cabinets and for the door to open against. The cabinet's 24 inches deep. I'm going to draw a line up, and I'm going to go 26 just to make it 2 inches bigger than the cabinet. Perpendicular over, back down. Then I can erase all this. We're going to match properties, and then we can trim the wall based upon that, and we can trim this there. And again, we're going to go ahead and just match properties, make that a cabinet line for right now. I'm going to copy this up to here, and we will fill it because that is going to be the edge of our cabinet there in the kitchen. I'm going to offset 24 inches, and that is going to be the cabinet line in the kitchen. I'm going to offset 48 inches to our island, which I believe our island is a huge 6-foot island. Let's double check that. That looks right. So if we dimension our island, yeah, it's just about 6 foot. We can bring our island maybe all the way over to there. Let's create the depth of the pantry. So let's copy this line over, maybe that's 16.4 to there. That sounds like a good number for a placeholder right now. let's offset 4 inches. So all I'm doing here is we're going to fill it, and it looks like, if I remember correctly, it looked like this cabinet actually wrapped around the corner to create this bar area. And on the pantry side, we had this cabinet wrap up, so you have an L-shaped pantry on the inside. So then, maybe just for now, we'll call this our center line of the kitchen. That'll probably adjust. I'm just going to use that right now. And what that means is I'll take this and center line that over there, so that I'm going to grab and create my island. Big monster island. Call this a continent. Let's turn our image back on. It definitely wasn't going over that far, and you see maybe our center was off from what the intention was. Let's see, that's off by 3 feet, so let's pull this over 18, and maybe that looks a little more correct to what they were doing in 36. So that's a good number right there for that. And I want to kind of block this off. They're going to create difference between the built-in for the TV and built-in for the kitchen. So I'm going to use this as a reference point. Don't need these anymore. And I'm going to rotate. Actually, I'm going to use this one. I'm going to rotate and copy this. And we will place this right here. And we'll trim that and trim. So now we have our kitchen kind of counter area, and then our living room area. And actually, I'm going to align this. I think that'll be a little bit nicer. Always looking for alignments. Yeah, so that'll be nice. That'll be our living room and all that sort of stuff. Our great room and TV, fireplace, all that cool stuff. I'm not going to block all this out right now. Again, I'm just worrying about space planning to make sure everything's fitting. And it looks like it's fitting just fine for right now, because I want to get into the second floor and talk through some of the importance of how all of that would really work. So this is where things are going to differ just a little bit. I don't mean differ necessarily in a good way or a bad way, just different. I like to create, I don't like XREFs, but I like having both floor plans on the same file, but I want them referenced. If something changes on the ground floor, I need to know that on the second floor. So my process in making this work is I'm going to bring over a handful of blocks that I kind of pre-build that really makes this process easy. This is what it looks like. I'm going to turn all my layers on because I actually have some more stuff hidden inside of there. Let's move kind of all these over. There we go. And we'll get into what all that stuff is in just a second. I'm going to turn the images off. So this is a block that I use for my outline of my house. This is my floor plan, my slab floor plan. So I'm going to move this block. This is really going to be the outline of my foundation. I'm going to place that there. This is the exact same block, but it is already changed to a different layer coloring. So I'm going to move this just 150 feet up. So before I jump into the rest of these, you're going to see by me manipulating one, I can actually manipulate both. So I need the outline of the house. So I'm going to layer isolate my exterior walls. I'm just moving this over because I need a copy of it. And I have a custom LISP again, PJ that I created, which I use as polyjoin, which all I have to do is just select all of these lines and immediately it went, you can see over here, this is all just loose lines. This immediately went to a polylined join line, which is exactly what I needed. So I'm going to click erase all, but then remove that line because this is the only line I cared about. And then we're going to come back. I'm going to get rid of these as well. I'm going to reference edit this block here, and I'm going to add this to my working set, and we can match properties because this is set to be by block and by block for color and line type. And then I can erase this because I just needed that as a placeholder, and we'll put this guy right here. I am, for the demonstration purposes and whatnot, I am going to add in essentially the step line of my garage because it's at least a 6-inch step down, if not bigger. As well as, let's go ahead and show our porch line because this would be structurally built, and that's really the idea, is we're showing the kind of the overall outline of our slab just for reference. And lastly, I know this is my elevator pit, so I want that in my slab, but the pit also needs to align with the hole in the slab above, so I'm going to go ahead and reference that as well, and you'll see why this is all important. So now if I save, you can see this outline right here. If I move it out of the way, this is the outline of my house and essentially the slab. And that same block that we copied up, this is now the outline of the ground floor, so I can build my second floor, and this gives me the outline of the ground floor, which is really nice. So let's start blocking out the second floor really quickly. Then we're going to kind of jump back into this. Actually, this is kind of cool. If I move this over a little bit. So again, this is that same outline, but this is now on my site building layer. So I can actually start building the outline of my house on my site plan. And you can see all three of these are 3 different layers, 3 different line types, all that sort of stuff. But these are all related to the block so that if something changes, they all change. And there's a beauty, such a beauty in that. If I turn on my drawing, looks like it's got to move this down a little bit. There we go. I'm going to do some quick dimensioning just to see this inset occurs roughly 15.8, and we'll call that 3'8". And this guy looks to be about 6'5". But it looks like it's also based upon this, which is all open to below, which is interesting. We'll have to keep that in mind to make sure, again, that everything is aligning the way we want to. I'm just going to kind of sketch this in there. That's all open to below and that bedroom. So this dimension may or may not stay. That could actually be referenced back to something else. So let's start seeing if we can lay this out. I'm going to turn this off, so I'm assuming, actually I'm curious, this is the center line of the door, so if we project over, that's about 13.6. Let's see, is this about 13.6? 14.4, yeah, it's about that, okay. So this is approximately where that bedroom wall is going to be, and I'm going to assume this is essentially going to be the bathroom for that as well. So I'm just going to bring these guys up just as reference points. Yeah, so I'm going to assume that this innie occurs at this outie. That totally makes sense. Okay. So actually, I want to do that because this is going to be here like that. All right. So that's good reference. I can see that the face of the house is based upon that face. We are going to offset in 3'8", and it looks like approximately 15'8". Again, this might shift once we actually get into the layout of the floor plan and adjust it as needed. But let's just give ourselves a starting point, because from there, that should be all the information I need to start drawing an outline of my second floor. Because it looked like everything else was pretty much wall over wall, which is nice. I think we go to there, and we come to here, and come to here, here, and here, and then close. Then we'll get rid of all these reference lines, and just pull this out of the way. I don't really care about any of those other pieces right now. I just want that as reference, but that looks like that will be nice. We are also going to outline our elevator pit, and again, we have our covered terrace with the open atrium, so we're going to do that and that. And we know we have the edge of our stairway right here. We have the edge of our bedroom right here. And that is what's going to be open to below. And it looks like it kind of comes off of this wall as well. So let's just copy this wall up, which is there. So this is going to be the outline of our open to below. So I'm just going to do 10, because that's going to be the thickness of our wall plus furring. So now if I do that, and I can get rid of all of these lines, and I know we're going to need this later, but that's fine for right now. So that's the open to below, plus we have the opening for this stair. So I'm going to push this over 48 inches, which will be essentially to this line. And we're going to let that be what's open. And actually, I see this now. Really, this is going to be the line of our opening to above. Totally wasn't even thinking about that. I just drew it here, but we see we have these columns. So this is going to be the really open to below. So I was off by 8 inches, so we'll just stretch this down 8 inches. Now, here's the fun part. I'm going to grab this block, which if you click on this one, you'll see this is my floor slab 2. And so I'm going to move this one right here on my ground floor, and then this one, which is the exact same block, but it's again for the second floor. This one is already preset to be my step layer, so I know the structural outlines of my second floor, and this one is preset to be dashed and showing quote unquote the lines above. So what that looks like is so I'm going to reference edit and then grab all these things that we quickly just sketched. That should be everything we need. Add to working set, and I'm going to match properties because again, we've got to make sure that everything is set to by layer, or excuse me, by block, all that good sort of stuff. So now I'm actually not going to erase this just yet because there's one other thing I want to show. So now when I save, you see I have the outline of my building on the second floor. And now we instantly have line of floor above. And you can see how everything matches. I just need to trim this. All of this matches everything we're doing perfectly. So now if my bedroom down here ever changed, let's say this grew by 12 inches, I immediately know that this is off and not correct. So that's great. It's one of the things I love. I'll just show this real quick. The reason why I didn't delete this just yet, and I'm going to show this over here. So this is, make sure that these two just are aligned properly. So you see this is my ground floor, this is my second floor, and these are just roofs. And I'm not going to draw roofs right now, but it's the same idea that these are blocks so that I can block out my roofs and they can be on multiple positions and adjust as needed. But the reason why, so this is now my second floor. And what I like to do, you can see there's a hatching kind of pre-built into here, and this is set to a site note layer. So what I can do is actually hatch inside of here and then match properties so that when I draw my site plan, and if I go to my site plan layers, I can highlight exactly where my second floor is based as well as my first floor. So it's just a quick way of being able to do that. But when I go to my floor plan mode, you see that hatching goes away. So it all just works so well to me. The other interesting thing is, this is the step of my garage. I don't necessarily want to see that on my second floor. We're going to get rid of that in just a second. And the way we're going to do that is, actually, let me reference edit this. I need this outline again. I was going to copy and remove. And I am going to match this to my exterior wall layer. And we will move this back here, and I can offset this 8 inches. Whoops. Offset 8 and offset 2. This is now a block wall with furring already set upstairs, which is perfect. And that's exactly what I needed, and you can see that these align perfectly. This will go here. Actually, looks like it might even get a little bit bigger. We'll play with that in a second once we start blocking everything out. What I wanted to do is I'm going to use this interior wall of my block wall real quick. And I'm going to do something that's going to look a little funky at first. I'm going to create this outline of my elevator, and I'm going to show you both ways. I'm going to show you the wrong way and then the right way first, or right way, just to show you why I was doing something. So I'm going to explode and take this, fill it. We are going to project this all the way over and trim this. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this over and allow me to then copy this over. And really what I'm going to do is create a polyline, and it's going to be a very special polyline. And by trimming this, you see that in fact, I'm just going to, again, polyline join, and I can show you real quick. So the interior, this little square right here, is now considered exterior space in the realm of my polyline, meaning you see that if I were to put water in here, it could actually escape out this way, right? So if I hatch this, whoop, that was weird. Not sure why that wasn't properly hatching. Something was slightly off. Let's just re-clip all those, and we should be good to go. Let's see if it works now. That's all right. It should still be fine, but either way, so this is an inside to everything. And the reason why that's important is I'm going to show you wrong first. So I want to X clip this ground floor outline. And if I X clip it, select polyline by this interior wall, you see I have the wall shown that I don't want to show, but I can reverse the direction of the clip and it shows my outside without showing the inside, which is perfect. But you see if I erase my second floor step, my elevator on the ground floor gets lost, right? So that's not what I want. So I'm going to delete that X clip, and I'm just going to move this guy up out of the way just for a second for demonstration purposes, because now if I move this guy back, and now if I X clip my ground floor and select polyline, now again it goes away, this all goes away because it's backwards. I'm going to erase this polyline. You see my elevator disappeared, but this time if I reverse the clipping direction, you see my elevator comes back, my porch comes back, everything comes back just the way I need it. And if I overlay my second floor, everything's good. So again, if I update my second floor and I move my elevator, I immediately see I have an issue that things are not aligning properly, and it's a huge red flag, and I can fix it. So that's the beauty of how I like to work in building blocks for reference purposes and all that sort of stuff. We can go through and finish blocking out this second floor, and I can do that, but that's not, it's just more of the same. And maybe I'll make another video that finishes this up and maybe gets into more of the details of putting in windows and doors and getting more into the design aspect versus the technical aspect. I was trying to focus in on the general technical aspect of how I block out that I thought was important. But this, like I said, this really allows me to have just a ton of control over how the floor plans relate to each other, how quickly I can block things out, how quickly I can change things, and more importantly, if and when I change things, I can see if things no longer align to the thing it's supposed to be aligning to, which is a huge importance. Again, I don't need to build a stair, but I would also build a stair out of a block so that when it's here and I have it here, if I change it in one place, it changes it in both, all that good sort of stuff. It's just the mentality I keep trying to have in creating efficiency, drawing it once, having it in multiple places, all that sort of stuff. This is just an entry-level discussion of the blockout process. Again, more from a technical side, and we'll probably put together some more videos soon, taking this even further.